chasing shadows in the darkest maze. Footsteps echo in the empty hall. Mysteries waiting on our call. Bigfoot stomping through the pines. Aliens sending secret signs. EVPs in the dead of night. Ghosts dancing in the pale moonlight. Paranormal for what we bring it to you. Truth behind the veil, gotta pursue you.
All right.
All right. We are on, right?
Yep. You're not moving.
Yeah. Hold on a minute. I'll fix it.
Jason's stuck in limbo or something. I don't know. Where you at, Jason? So just want to tell everybody thanks for joining us and being here on this Saturday show. We are talking to Kevin.
Oh, yeah.
And he's actually got a book out too. So
He does.
Yep.
He's got a book out called Billy. What's it called now?
Billy Finds a Bigfoot.
Billy Finds Bigfoot, yeah.
Yes.
And he's also a Sasquatch researcher. He's had some experiences. He is from Wisconsin. He likes the Green Bay Packers, everybody. We talked to him a little bit. So we're just going to bring him on. There he is.
He just had to throw that out there, didn't he?
I just had to throw it out there. We might have a lot of Green Bay fans out there, so they might want to hear.
Well, I hope I would almost say I'm more of a Guinness fan, David, than a Packers fan for this last season. But
Guinness never lets you down. That's the good thing.
You know what I'm saying?
You know what you're getting when you open up that bottle.
That's right.
Yeah, big old aftertaste and heartburn for me.
I don't know. I just think it tastes way too good.
I just can't drink that thick brown. Ooh.
It's a loaf of bread in every glass. It's
a milkshake. That's all it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's like right in between a solid and a liquid.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Jason and David, for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, and really been looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, likewise.
Yeah, it's I thought you weren't gonna make it there for a minute, and I said, oh, he's
when you have littles in your life, kids and everything, time is not your own. So
yeah.
Right.
Sorry to make you nervous there, Jason.
Luckily, you did it. I mean, luckily my kids are not here tonight, and you'd probably be able to hear them.
That's right.
So we want to welcome you, though, to Paranormal 411. And before we get into the book, when did all this Sasquatch stuff start for you?
It started hard for me around 1995. And I think for me as a kid, it really was kind of a accumulation of watching horror movies that I shouldn't have been watching. Always wanting to, scare the hell out of myself. But then, as soon as that moon fell and started to rise and nighttime was coming, I was like, shoot, I shouldn't have been doing that. But it was a bit of the horror movie side of things. And then of course, I wasn't necessarily, I was just born then, frankly, but 1987, Harry and the Hendersons, that movie was a true tipping point for me. But then when I say 1995 is because that's when the internet was kicking off, right? And I always kind of teased that I had this ginormous Millennium Windows computer, and the first thing I looked up was a Bigfoot. It's got to be there. What's happening out there in the internet that I can get my hands on? Well, in the one of the very first websites that popped up was the BFRO, the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization.
Yeah.
And so there was that. There was, the really glitchy videos that you could watch of Bigfoot, like the Prince Edward Island footage always stuck to me. That's kind of this guy running out of the forest, and then all of a sudden there's just this dark figure that kind of bolts the other way. And so I would have to say that was kind of the kickoff for me, Jason, was, that there's possibly, not to call Bigfoot a monster, because I don't consider it that, but the fact that there's this creature that's undiscovered that, has such a history to it, and that's me, it's a reality. And so that kind of was the spark of everything, of like, oh, I gotta see what this is all about.
Now, how did your family feel about it when you started, looking into and talking about Bigfoot?
That's a great question, David. They were very accepting, I think, of it. I mean, I think there's, as a kid and as a teenager, you could get into a whole lot of other stuff.
Right. Worse things.
There's worse things than,
Yeah.
being in Wisconsin, where, at the time of where we were growing up, I mean, there was woods and there was forests, but it wasn't like, we were in the metropolis of Milwaukee, right? So it's not like it was getting into any Bigfoot trouble here. Now, if you went to, a little bit more north or west, then you can kind of get in the Nicolay Forest area. That is there's some activity there, but we were 4 or 6 hours away, right? So but regardless, to get back to your question, like they were welcoming of it. And in fact, later on in life, this is where I actually had family members come with me to kind of see what this is all about. The one thing that I will say about the BFRO is that, it's more of a pay to play type of format with them within that organization.
Right.
But you can certainly, and like we did, you can certainly pay a couple $100, go out there with folks who absolutely know the subject matter, absolutely know the area in which they're, Bigfoot hunting or looking for Bigfoot, right? And you can have yourself an experience. And so, they knew what they were getting into once I was a big horror movie fan. So they're like, okay, well, and I was the youngest, so it was like, well, I was already kind of a pistol, right?
So go ahead, Jason.
I was just going to ask him if he ever got into anything other than, Bigfoot. Did you get into like ghost or spirits or anything?
Yeah, you kind of had to, right? I mean, once the door opened, the gateway drug of Bigfoot kind of opened up. I mean, and as a kid, even before, the internet, I'd go to the library, and, the Loch Ness Monster was massive for me. Ghost stories were big. I was big into poltergeists. I already had known the word when I was in like 3rd grade.
Wow.
What's that?
I was like, wow.
Yeah, I mean, it was just one of those things where I, because I was a movie fan of the movie Poltergeist, like I had known of the word, and I looked it up, and it was just the word alone was like, man, what is this? It's a heavy word, right?
Yes.
But got into the paranormal side, just anything paranormal, ghosts especially. I always was fascinated by that. Not so much the alien side, because candidly, and even today, fellas, aliens freak me out. That's a whole other kettle of fish that I just am like, you know what? You want to talk about, the intelligence of those types of creatures, if those exist, or beings, like I'm good. I'll stick to my forest, right?
Yeah.
But the one time that we did, so then, because the BFRO, getting into that, I actually then got into doing a lot of kind of ghost hunting, if you will. So we were up in Duluth, Minnesota, and we were at some type of abandoned psychiatric ward, and which has now since been torn down because it just wasn't safe to be in there. Even at the time, I was surprised that we could even be in there because everything was so decrepit. The fans looked like wilted flowers. I mean, that's how old this place was. So the fire marshal thereafter kind of tore it down. But that was where I saw my first. It was a bizarre scene, and I'm happy to get into it if you'd like me to.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
But it was
That's cool.
we were all kind of, there was maybe about say like 8 or 10, if not a couple more of us there, and we're all in this hall and we're trying to do EVPs, you know, on electro voice phenomenon type, capturing some of that content. And I had my like super old, like I don't even know what it was, some type of recorder, right? That was very good at capturing this EVP content. But long story short, I actually we were all kind of standing in the hall, and I see this dark enough figure to where, and they were like curled up and like almost like in a fetal position, just on the floor. And there was a dark enough mass, looked like a person, that I actually stopped from like leaning forward because I was adjusting this backpack that I had, and almost like stopped and adjusted. I was like, oh my gosh, I almost stepped on someone. And then I looked down and it was gone. And I didn't say anything. And then literally not more than maybe 5 minutes later, one of the leaders of that group was kind of asking questions and trying to get some response. And he goes, "Oh, sorry if I bumped you with my, my backpack." He was like, "Whoa, that was weird. I swear I thought I was going to hit someone with my backpack," which is why I said that. And I said, "Hey, I got to stop everyone. Like, I also thought I saw someone here too. I thought I was going to like bump into them and hit them with my knee, but they were in the fetal position on the ground. Like, it was this, but I could tell that it was this darker figure, almost like, for lack of a better way in which my brain interpreted it, was like almost kind of like a naked woman, if like just a very frail, like small clothing, like just, I can't quite describe it, but it was like this. If you were to see this image of everything's black, but you see this kind of like frail woman with longer hair, kind of curled up in a fetal position. And that's what I thought I was going to bump into. There was all sorts of weird things that kind of happened that night as well. So yeah, ghosts definitely went into that. But after that experience, I felt as if there was some type of like a clinger energy that I had then for quite a while after that. And that carried out for, months.
Yeah, the bad thing is doing those kinds of investigations. Jason and I do them, quite often. But if you're new into it and you're with a group and they don't do any kind of cleansing before, they don't do any kind of cleansing after,
this is free for all.
Yeah, then, and you just step into it, you can get things that follow you home, and so and
but
sometimes
even that terminology, David, like the following you home, it to me, it was almost like that's like anxiety kicked in, and like just this turmoil kicked in, and it's not like there's going to be this fetal position figure following you home. It's like there's an energy,
right, and that's probably the one that you saw is probably not the one that attached itself to you.
No.
More than likely it was definitely a different entity.
Yeah, and there was, this was being in a psych ward.
Yeah,
there's probably some nasty energy going on in there, and
guaranteed.
So I'll never forget. So I was with a buddy who, a couple family members again, because I dragged him with me, and they were interested. some family members were interested in the ghost side of things. I was interested in the Bigfoot side of things. So we always kind of collaborate and try to bring each other into, what we're interested in. But I had a buddy there, and he had gotten actually like a little bit separated from the group. So he was wandering this third or fourth story, of the psych ward, just kind of alone. And I was like, and finally, after about a half hour, he kind of comes wandering out of the shadows, and I'm like, "Are you okay?" And he's like, "This place is spooky," like, yeah, felt bad for him.
Yeah. I'm definitely not a wanderer. I can't. Ooh.
Yeah, it's not good.
Me, it doesn't bother me at all. So,
well, and I guess it kind of depends where you are and what you're doing. It's not to say that any abandoned place is going to be fun to be alone in.
I can say that I've had experiences my whole life. I started being able to see ghosts at the age of 3 and still see them to this day. So, ghosts and the paranormal it just doesn't scare me. There's nothing about it that's spooky, scary, or anything about it. Yeah.
And it's kind of interesting though, David, that your podcast is called Paranormal 411. And do you prescribe to any of the missing peoples that happen in the forest or anything like that?
Well, I mean, we do talk about some of that stuff. We were just in a documentary actually for Mr. Greg Ogles. It's called The Vanished, and it was about some of that stuff here in East Tennessee area. And but yeah, I really think that now what it is, I think you get into a deeper subject, because I think then you start getting into possible portals.
Sure.
And maybe even alien activity, and so, and I guess you could go into Bigfoot. The Native Americans always talked about how Bigfoot would take women and children.
Mm-hmm.
And they would tell, women and children not to be out at night or be out in the woods, even alone, because Bigfoot would take them.
Yeah.
And so, all the above, I guess, is a possibility when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Well, and that one Netflix movie or film, Missing 411, really, I think, leaned into that of a potential Bigfoot possibility taking people.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's the one story of Albert Ostman that was very popular, probably turn of the century, early 1900s, where he was actually interviewed and described being picked up one night because he was camping and
carried over his shoulder.
The shoulder of a Bigfoot, don't know male or female, but then plopped down into this family, group of Bigfoot, and he kind of was with them for a day or two or a couple days, and the idea of that, I think, is just, and this is also where kind of some of the stories that you hear and people's experiences, and I always say this, like, you can't ever disregard someone's experience. Like, you weren't there, you didn't have it. Right. As bananas as it might seem, even if you would have seen a spaceship land and a Bigfoot come out handcuffed to a briefcase, that's their experience. Like, that's true. Someone had that experience. So
absolutely. Yeah. I'm glad to hear you say that, because, a lot of people have a tough time going between, and that was a question, I'm sure we would have got to at some point, because it's one of Jason's favorite questions to ask, but where people that do investigate, the Bigfoot phenomena, there's a really big dividing line between the woo and the flesh and blood. But if most flesh and blood people who believe that it is only a flesh and blood creature will completely discount anything that has to do with the woo. They won't have nothing to do with it. BFRO is one of the worst at doing that.
Well, and I gotta say, if you're out there long enough, but the woo's gonna meet up with you at some point. And for my first experience, it met us on the first date.
Really?
So and there was, to Jason, to kind of go back to your question about, do I dabble in anything else paranormally? We also had experiences I did with an orb. Once in Los Alamos, New Mexico, and then again in like the kind of the Sam Houston, National Park in Texas there. And that one orb that I saw in New Mexico, I mean, I didn't know it at the time, but it was maybe the size of the innermost central light source was like this amberish kind of glow, but then it got to about the size of about a basketball, which is more like an amber orangish. And you could kind of see some reflection. And what was, again, kind of bizarre about that experience is like I thought it was someone's headlight that we were trying to reach and radio to and meet up with, and it turned out that this was 20-ish 30 feet up in the air, because again at night I didn't realize that this trail had dipped down, and what I'm looking at is actually the middle of a tree, right? And this was up there. And so it immediately was, okay, well, that happened. I'm not looking for that. I'm gonna put that over here in this category of I'll get back to you later, right? Because we just had gotten growled at, and things were happening from the Bigfoot perspective, which is what I was trying to investigate. So this all happened in Los Alamos, and the first night we hear this crunch, this lumberous walking of this bipedal something, right? And everyone was kind of, the BFRO folks are all kind of radioing, is someone out there walking? Nope, no one's here. Everyone was accounted for. And it just was this, I mean, it's kind of interesting because I think the Bigfoot creatures they know when you're around. And at the same time, I think they can be stealthy if they want to be. So I think this Bigfoot was trying to make itself known, and by just making its walking a little bit different, and you could hear it. That was the first night. But then the second night, this is where it was the five of us, a family member, another fella, and then actually two other fellas, but then one of the BFRO kind of members. Also, the BFRO member and this other guy, they went off in their own direction. What we said, I was like, we really want to go back down this path. There's something that's telling me go back down this path. It's windy, it goes down, it's dark, go that way. And so we kind of would walk every 30 or so feet and actually stop in the shadows because the moon was so full and bright. It was making these great shadows over the pines there. And there was no wind at all. I mean, you could hear your pulse beating in your ears if you concentrated enough, just because that's how deafeningly quiet it was. Well, as we're kind of doing the stop and start, initially there was this pebble that kind of trickled down this hill or area, and we all kind of like look to our right because that's where we're going, and couldn't see nothing. And this was early enough, guys, where we didn't have a FLIR. We didn't really have audio recording. It was just us experiencing what was happening because we were just so novice, and now we're stuck to the gill, right? Like we have every technology we can go in there, and protection, mind you, versus back then I was just like, well, I guess I'll carry my machete, and if anything happens, I have that, right? That was it, right? That was the extent of it. So we heard that and we're like, okay, well, don't see anything, but it was so still at night. I remembered it so clearly. Like that was I don't know if it was thrown or if there was something there that had moved a toe and then that made a stone, little pebble trickle, but it was noticeable enough that we all kind of looked at it, kept going. And by about another 15, 20 feet, that's when we got this deep guttural growl. It shook our shirts off our chest. We all kind of looked, and I'm happy to reenact it if you'd like. But it was just
Absolutely.
this kind of, and it just really vibrated, and it was deep, and it was an intentional, right? That's, I guess, the thing that I would find most incredible. It was just so intentional to say, back off. That was the sentiment, right? Got it. Message understood. We looked at the three of us looked at each other and said, we got to go back and we got to get that. Bill was the guy's name, the BFRO guy. And this guy was like, I always tell this part because it's important. He was like 6'7", 6'8". I mean, he was a tall fella. Go back to try to find Bill and this other guy. And this is when we finally caught up and got radio signal, and said, Bill, we just got growled at. What do we do? He's like, all right, well, come meet us at this point and we'll discuss. I was like, oh, I think I see you. And he's like, no, you don't. Like, there's no way you see us. And what I was seeing was that orb in the tree. And I thought that that's where someone had turned on their headlamp. But nope, that wasn't them. They were 10, 15 minutes down the trail even further, right? So anyway, so we met up, we discussed what happened, decided to keep going, go down to where we got, where we think the growl was coming from. And funny enough, it came to a meadow. And again, the moon was just beaming on this meadow. So everything was super clear, kind of like that bluish greenish haze to everything. And as we kind of said, okay, we're gonna go, let's go across this meadow. And this is where Bill says, at about a halfway point, Bill goes, all right, now I just hold on a sec. Just by out of chance, if we get bluff charged, sit down and just don't look at it in the eyes. So immediately I had to acknowledge that, okay, you're telling me that this thing is going to be real, and it's going to be pissed off enough that it's going to come charging at us like a gorilla. And all we have to do is simply acknowledge and sit down and try not to crap our pants and freak out and do all these things. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if I can do all this, but everyone gave the verbal commitment. Yep, sure. Sounds good. We're all going to do what you say. And so once we gave that verbal, we continued to the other end of this meadow line, which actually, came to another forest line. And he brought out this kind of wood knocker, claves type thing. And he goes, okay, I'm going to try something. And so he hits this twice and nothing, right? Nothing happened. Didn't spook anything. And this is important. Didn't spook anything. As we kept going another 15, 20 feet, all of a sudden, that's when you hear this tree getting cracked and snapped and pushed down on leaves and everything else, or, leaf litter and all this fodder is happening and pushing down. That, as soon as that tree snapped and leaves and everything started kind of brushing against other trees, this massive rumble started happening. And there was about a 30 cattle, mountain cattle, that all started stampeding down the meadow where we had just crossed. And you could see it. But at the time, I didn't know what the hell was going on, because I wasn't expecting cattle or mountain cattle, free range cattle, unsupervised in this area. Was not expecting that. I don't even think the BFRO knew of it. And so, because you'd think that might be like a safety concern.
Yeah. Be careful, people.
Yeah. You could get a stampede. It could be a thing. And so, I mean, this is where I always say, I was vulnerable, and I was like, I'm reaching back for this family member because I think this might be it, right? I don't know what's happening, but we're maybe going to get trampled. And so you could see this 30 group of cows just running out of there, hightailing it. And then once that kind of subsided, you hear again this crunch, 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 this you could hear the walking just kind of dissipate down the hillside of this mountain or whatever. And, of course, another fella did have a flare, but he, there was so much going on. He was trying to work it and get it on, and, just wasn't, I don't think, acclimated with the tool. And so he was just like, give me the damn thing, because it's right there. It's got to be right there. We're going to catch it. And the thing that was, you look back at an instance like that, and man, turn on your lights. Who cares? This is it. Like,
Right.
they don't, but we were taught or told to really only use your flashlight in case of an emergency, or if this is something really, dangerous or whatever, like, but don't break protocol, because that's protocol, is to never basically use your light. And so I kick myself to this day, which is now over, 10 years ago. Right. But it's like, we could have seen something. We could have captured or had some type of a sighting, because it was literally 50 yards away. And when we came back the next day, we saw the tree break. Like, we could have visually seen it had we turned on the light, for sure. But what I thought was always so interesting about that whole circumstance was, you mean to tell me that this Bigfoot, because that's what I believe it was next to this 30 plus perhaps free range mountain cattle, and it didn't spook them? And was it next to them because of safety? Was it next to them because it was going for a meal? Was it, why were they so close in proximity to each other? And if this was there and it didn't get spooked of this creature being there, or they didn't get spooked because of us, but yet because this tree got knocked down, like, what signaled this cattle to freak out? Because we sure as hell didn't do it. You'd think that we would do it. We were 5 grown men trying to, traipsing through. We're not quiet going through this prairie and getting to this tree line.
Right.
So that was the second night of my first expedition with the BFRO. And then after that, I mean, man, talk about being a fish in water and just having that hook dug right in, because I was hooked. That's all I can say about it.
That's crazy though, to have, that much activity on the first time you ever get to go out. I mean, that's there's people who spend almost a lifetime going out to try to get half of that,
It was a lottery ticket. And I've been to other places, in Iowa, Texas. Texas was also kind of an interesting one, where, again, the orb that I had seen in New Mexico was totally spherical, right? It was sphere shaped. But in Texas, this was a very interesting instance, because the campsite that we were meant to go to, again with the BFRO, that we were meant to go to, it was blocked off. FBI was there because there was a camp that had gotten torn up, and literally the tent was, tossed into a tree. Things were splayed out everywhere. Well, we were supposed to kind of go and investigate that area because of that circumstance. But the FBI had been there literally like the couple days prior. And so it was, a no-go as far as trespassing or getting towards that point, because it's now under investigation, because now it's a missing persons issue. And what's challenging about stories like that, or what we were told, is you can't search for that. You can't search for, hey, was there an FBI investigation happening in Houston, or, the Sam Houston National Forest in 2014? That doesn't show up anywhere. Right.
Right.
So it's tough to corroborate that's what we were told, but that's what we were told. And so we had gotten moved to basically Grand Central Station, which is, some campsite where everyone else and their mother and brother are, in a trailer and camping and doing stuff like that. And we were literally 50 yards away from the bathroom. I mean, this was like, this is not what we were expecting.
Right.
Now, what did happen though is I did have a very close, relative say that they smelled something that was putrid and eggy and cat pee that brushed the tent. And someone else had said that they smelled that as well. I can't, that's maybe call that a class B, class C, perhaps
Right.
experience. But that's also one of the second night again is where I saw more of a elongated orb, if you will, because this was more of a pink red. It looked like the tail light of an old Cadillac. That's how long this thing was.
Wow.
And middle of nowhere, no one was there that we were aware of, and it just kind of went on. I said, oh, and I even this time I had recording, and I said, oh, there's someone in the woods, but then it turned off, and I was like, and then there was a commotion because I was like, okay, did anyone else see that? A couple other people did see that, and it just was on, and then it was off, and wood line, right? So, but then the next best circumstance that I had was then going to Mount Hood in Oregon. This is when I was going on an expedition with Cliff Barrickman and some of his team. And this is where it was, I think this was our second expedition up there with him. And this is where, and I have it on my Instagram. So Pine Shadow Design, that's kind of my Instagram handle, if you will. And I have it there, but this is where I actually was able to capture what I believe is a baby Sasquatch blowing raspberries or bubbles up in a tree. And for what that would look like or sound like, it's kind of which is literally kind of had a perfect up and down wave, form or shape. And then the last one was kind of a top down type of a waveform. And that was interesting because when we were going down this trail, and that again, mind you, at this time I had my FLIR on, we had recordings, everything was, we were stacked as far as we're not going to miss this thing again. And we passed this area. It was so dark. This time you couldn't see anything, especially when you have a FLIR. For those of you who go out there and know what sticking your eye to a FLIR is, or any type of night vision, once you remove that from your eye, you're blind. It's such a double-edged sword. But then there was this, what sounded like to me was like this R2D2 type of an alarm or alert or something, like just kind of like blue, like it was just this weird whistly type of alarm sound. Like, and I never heard anything like it. And one of the members said, oh, that's a barred owl. That's a barred owl. But my immediate sense, guys, was, oh my gosh, we're in like the nursery. That was my immediate sense. Thought nothing of it, although I was starting to kind of freak out because I couldn't see. And if I did have to run, I didn't know where I was going. So again, grabbed a family member for stability and to figure out where the hell I was. But we kept going down this trail, and maybe about an hour down the trail, we said, okay, let's go back. But down the exact same spot where we had gotten whistled at, or that alarm went off, sure enough, there was this lone tree, and everything else was silent. Again, one of those very, windless nights. There was this lone tree, just kind of swaying back and forth. And we did capture some type of a heat signature blob, but if you've ever looked at trees through a FLIR or a night vision, they're all kind of heated at the top. That's where they keep their heat. But yet something was definitely hotter than the everything around it, but like it was blobby, which didn't make any sense. And then sure enough, this is when we kind of focused on it. We're looking at this tree, you hear this creaking, and this is when I hear these, raspberries kind of being blown. I say it, it's blowing bubbles. And this is when we actually, funny enough, there was a woman who had all these baby toys. It just so happened she had like baby rattles and things like that she had with her. And we left her alone at this tree, and we decided to walk probably about 50 or so yards away just so she could possibly make contact with whatever was in this tree. Initially or eventually the tree stopped swaying. But this is at the same time, I'm like, everything's going off in my head thinking, oh man, is the brother, sister, mom, dad, what's going to happen? Like I'm trying to do like a 360 scan, making sure that this woman is also protected because she is alone, but she's very brave, sitting on the floor, kind of talking to this thing. But it was an intense moment that kind of fizzled out. And so things will happen to you in the woods that you don't expect.
What do you think about the orbs that you see? The Native Americans, a lot of the Native Americans talk about these orbs in conjunction with Bigfoot, right? One and the same. They're both the same thing. What do you think about those? What do you think that they are?
Well, I don't know if they're related. But all I can say is that the few times that I've gone out there and I am investigating any type of a Bigfoot activity or Sasquatch activity, funny enough, I just happen to also have captured or have experienced orb activity. And so I can't explain why that is. I don't know if anybody can. True, from a scientific method.
Right.
I think there's folks out there who would say, oh, they're related, and this is because of that, and they're portal jumpers or hoppers, or, it's like, we unless you've studied that, it's your experience. And I think to name it something, David, is going a little bit too far. But again, that was the first night, saw the orb. The second time going out in Texas, or third or fourth time, saw something there, orbish. I don't know what the hell it is, but all I can say is that that didn't seem to be, that experience wasn't hostile.
Right.
Seeing orbs, that's not a hostile, like, I don't know what they are, but they're not aggressive. They kind of float around. They might go on, go off. That to me is not a threat. Whereas something growling at you or pushing a tree down on you, that's probably more of a danger or threat, right? And I also don't know if there's any intelligence behind an orb. I think that there are plenty of people who've experienced them who have said that they move and they do this and they do that, or they've avoided me or whatever it was. That could signal intelligence. The ones that I've experienced and what I'm calling an orb, because truly I don't know what else to call it, and maybe I'm mislabeling that, but that's what I would call it. And so, yeah, I'll ask you, do you find, either of you experienced something similar?
Well, unfortunately, we've just not too long ago, we was doing a paranormal thing over here at a place close to us called the Coochie Booger. And
Coochie, not the other word. It's just a booger.
It's a booger, like a wood booger or anything else.
Wait, was were we thinking that was hoochie? Because that would be an amazing term.
The story when it started, when we were in high school, which has been a long time. It was called the
Minute ago.
Coochie Boogie.
With the okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So
But you know,
we
there's a
kind of
lot of
changed the
Bigfoot.
name.
Yeah, there's a lot of Bigfoot sightings there and stuff like that. We was doing a paranormal investigation because supposedly a little girl drowned there
Mm.
at this spring house. But we had something throwing rocks or something at us from the woods.
Mhm.
And so we've never really gone out and done, we have not had the chance to do it yet, to go out and do any investigations for Bigfoot. But we've interviewed a bunch of people, and one of them was Greg, and he does a lot of movies and stuff like that. And one of his movies, I think Jason probably remembers the name of it. The one where was it the LBL?
Yeah, the LBL.
Anyway, what was interesting about that is that they were seeing a lot of orbs.
Mhm.
And when they went back to start, rendering the video and looking into it to start making the movie and everything, what they noticed was that this orb was over kind of in the tree line, and you could see it getting brighter and dimmer and brighter and dimmer. It was almost like saying, "Hey, look at me," right? But he had this passive camera, so it collected light to see these night shots, right? To do these night shots. And you see what could only kind of be described as a Bigfoot prone, so out on all fours, crawling towards them.
This is footage that was
Yeah.
captured.
Yeah.
It's in the documentary.
It's in the movie. It's in the movie. And so it almost, to me, when you see something like that, it almost to me seems like they're working in conjunction. Hey, look at me so you don't see what's crawling up to you. Yeah.
And this is called Sasquatch on Earth, Beasts of the LBL.
No, the one I think, is it Return to the LBL? Is that the next movie?
No, I think that's the next movie he's about to do, is Return to the LBL. Let's see. Hold on. Let me let's find the actual movie. So then that way.
Yeah, because I mean, here's the thing. There's so like, it's just not widely publicized if someone has amazing footage. And the thing that I always kind of discuss too is nowadays with AI, this whole Bigfoot topic is in trouble.
Oh yeah.
And it just, for better or for worse, as much as it's great to see some of the AI and do Bigfoot type reels and things like that, and some of it's comedic, some of it's trying to portray, an actual person capturing a Sasquatch on film. What it is doing is causing people to say, I can't believe my eyes anymore.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm hopeful for is that in some way it actually forces people out of their homes to, if you want an experience and if you want to seek the truth, you got to get out there.
That's the best way to do it.
Yeah. I mean,
especially if you're a skeptic on these kinds of things. And we talk about that in the paranormal side of things too, right? If you're a skeptic, that's cool. But, you could be skeptical sitting on your couch watching this stuff all day, but go out and look for it yourself.
That's right.
And then see if you're a skeptic, when things start happening to you.
Yeah. I mean, you can have opinions being an armchair expert, right? But it's another thing to go out there and you might, funny enough, again, in the forests, man, you could be looking for something. You could look for Sasquatch, and then you could come across orbs. You could be coming across something else that's, right place, right time, or wrong place, wrong time.
Yeah. When I got into this with David, it was 2012. I didn't believe none of it. None of it was real. David said, well, come over. Well, he had some experiences at his house. He had a haunted house, right? So we worked together, and he asked me to come over. He said he had this little girl that he'd been seeing and been playing with and stuff, like with the TV and the knobs and everything. But so I come over, we're doing some EVP recording and some EMF. We had it on our cell phone. This is how long ago it's been. And it's been a minute.
Yeah.
So I had
on a Nokia.
So I had my phone, and this EMF was just going crazy when I would go to my knee. For some reason, when it went to my knee, I don't have any metal or anything on my knee, and just go to my knee, it just boom, just top out. Then we were recording EVPs at the same time, and I asked her a question. Are you sitting on my lap? So we went on a few more minutes. David told her to stop.
Yeah.
And it stopped after he said that. All the EMF, it just went blank. So we were outside, we're going to listen to the EVPs, and right after I asked the question, are you sitting on my lap, you hear a little girl whisper, and it goes, yes. And that just went through me, and I told David I got to go home. I didn't come back for 2 weeks. 2 weeks went by.
You stopped talking to David for a couple of years?
No, I didn't stop talking to him. I just
we worked together at the time, so he couldn't avoid me.
I really did.
At the other end of the lunch table.
Yeah. But I thought about it for a couple of weeks and said, you know what, this is interesting. And we've been doing it ever since.
And how long has that been?
2012.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, so for Jason, I mean, the fact that you were open, though, there's something that you had to be at least a little bit open to the subject to say, okay, I'm going to go to David's house. I'm going to see what this is. I'm going to ask questions. Once you start opening up that door, which I feel as if you let the door wide open.
Yeah.
And the fact that I think you had this spirit coming towards you, like you must have actually been very open to the idea, or your energy was very welcoming for you to have that experience, which it probably, I mean, did that ever happen again, or was it more of like a once in a lifetime thing?
At that particular house, David's house, we had a few more things happen, but it wasn't the girl with me. It was a man's voice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't
good on that.
But
it was pretty good.
And then did the man sit on your knee or your left?
No, David had gotten scratched one time.
Oh, okay.
On his neck.
Yeah, so scratched me by my ear down like right there.
Not good. Not good.
So we had,
for me, it's like pay attention to me.
Yeah. So we had decided to do another little investigation, and before we did, his son had got sick at school, so we went and picked him up, and then come back and started the investigation. So we were in the hall going into this one room. It was pitch dark in there because we had turned the lights out, shut the door, and we're EVP recording is basically what we were doing then.
Yep.
And I was talking to something. Didn't know that I was really talking to this thing. I just was asking questions, and I asked it. I said, "Why don't you?" What did I say, David?
You said, "Why don't you scratch him?" Talking about my son, right? My son came because he got sick at school.
Yeah.
And so he goes, "Why don't you scratch him?" The one with the glasses on, which was my son, and he was, in high school at the time. And so, we finish. It's like almost 15 minutes doing this investigation. And we go back outside on the porch, the same place that he told me, I have to go, from the last time. We start listening back, and at about 4 minutes in is when Jason said, "Why don't you scratch him?" the one with the glasses on. Well, you
No,
hear
no.
Class A
first-
EVP.
At
Yeah,
first,
you-
it says, I say, why don't you scratch him? It's like I'm talking to this thing.
Right.
And it
And
goes,
then
which
it
one?
Yeah, it goes, you hear it. It goes, a man's voice goes, which one?
Yeah.
And then he goes, the one with the glasses on, almost like they were talking to each other.
Yeah.
And then you hear a man's voice go, little boy.
Yeah,
Ooh.
it was crazy.
Yeah, my family members kind of continued to this ghost thing, and I think that there's some intelligence again with ghosts or that type of phenomena, because they were at a jail cell and they were asking questions, and then it just was kind of a call and response, like, well, what was your favorite food? And they have someone who goes, pizza. It's like,
Yeah.
and it's like, wow, to say that, to me, that's more of a modern term or a modern food, right?
Yeah.
But it's to get back to once I had my experience at that insane asylum, and I don't know, it was more like a psych ward, not necessarily an insane asylum, but it was psych ward. And it's like, I don't know what I'm dealing with, and especially the whole cling side of things. Like, I don't know what I'm dealing with. Whereas at least in the forests, I have a good understanding of what I'm dealing with. And by good understanding, I mean, I at least can expect to see a bipedal figure covered in hair versus something that you can't see, can't smell, all that type of thing. But that's interacting with you. Like, that to me is where I was like, I don't know if I can do the ghost thing anymore, just because it freaked me out too much. And it just was like, I don't know what I was doing with that topic versus perhaps I don't know what I'm doing with the Sasquatch topic either, but going out there and investigating something that I think is David, to your kind of point before about the flesh and blood or more the woo side, I think it's more flesh and blood. I don't necessarily think it's an alien or any type of creature of, with those beings, or any relation perhaps, really. And I don't necessarily partake in the fact that it can kind of portal hop, or shrink sizes or cloak. I mean, cloaking, that whole business, and like the alien effect, if you will, or the predator effect.
Mhm.
People have seen that. So it's like, I kind of like to think, and this is where I start to romanticize, and in a way, of this creature who is undiscovered by man or humans, and has the ability to evade us, has the ability to live its life in the forest, and without fire, without electronics, without the crap that humans have kind of produced, right? I'm sure it has its own society. I'm sure it has its own family or familial, context that it lives in, right? And to your point as well, David, like the Native Americans and the Indians, they thought of this creature and these creatures as the other tribe of the forest. And so, like, that to me is more of a down to earth type of creature. And
They
so
did
that's
have two ways of talking about them, though. They said that they walked in both worlds, the spiritual and the
Sure.
physical world.
Well,
So they said that
so
they
did every
were-
other animal, though, as well.
Well, not quite to the, I don't think to the way that they, talked about the big brother, or
Yeah,
the
that's
one
fair.
in the forest,
That's fair.
or
Yes,
the fourth creature. Right. He was both worlds, but
yeah.
But yeah, I think it's interesting. Jason, was it the Cryptic Expeditions, the Legend of the Downy Booger?
No, that was the first one.
Okay.
So it was Cryptid Expeditions, but Land of the Lakes.
Okay. Land Between the Lakes, LBL.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was trying to find that one. I was on his IMDb, but he's only got a couple of movies of his listed there. So, and none of them's that one.
So, what got you? Let's talk about the book now for a little bit.
I was about to say, what made you decide to write a book?
I read some of it, yeah, what it would let me read.
Sure.
So the graphics or the illustrations was badass.
Well, thank you.
Did you draw those?
I did, yes. And I drew the entire book. Actually, it helped me to draw almost the pictures first, and then kind of fill it in with the story. And I was kind of doing, sometimes one or the other, but I love to draw, so that's what was kind of leading me to that. It was right around the Finding Bigfoot era when that show was super hot, and then I just was like, I want to write something that my future kids can perhaps, read, or I could read to them. And what a fun way to kind of like get into children's book. And candidly, I was like, well, I don't think I'm at the level where I can write a novel, but a children's book, that's about my reading level. So let's go with that first. And the pictures, perfect, because I'm a visual guy, movie guy. So that's where I was like, yeah, let's do that first. Yeah. But it was right around that, the Finding Bigfoot era. And, I had started that, and it took me 10 years to about finish it. And it just so happened that, and this was kind of my homage to Harry and the Hendersons, because you see the creature being kind of this loving, all forest kind of loving creature, and it appreciating Billy wanting to study animals and draw the animals that he sees or saw, the leaves, the rocks, things like that. And it was also at a time where kind of going through some relationship stuff, and I was like, it's really important for, I think, kids to start to grasp the idea of not taking for granted what they have in front of them. And I think for adults, that's super hard even, right? But like, if we can maybe start to kind of share and kind of teach that sentiment to children, like, I think that might help. It would have maybe helped me. But not taking granted what's in front of you, respecting nature, making sure that you are kind, you're friendly, like these are the things that are going to advance you in life, right? That's my perception. And to kind of relay that message. So anyway, try to put all these kind of thoughts into a children's book, and try to make it fun enough for anyone who has littles in their life to, read it to them. And I think it's so important that it was in a medium in which is something that you read, because I don't want us to get away from the fact that books are so important. And I think my folks would laugh at me saying this now, because back when I was a kid, it was like I didn't really want to read, but like it's so important. And so that's 10 years later is when I finally said, okay, I'm going to finish this book. And it just so happened, again, kind of right place, right time, where I was out with a buddy, and he was friends with, Doug Hychak, and we were camping and we were kind of on this Bigfoot expedition here in Wisconsin, because he's in Minnesota. And so just so happened that, he was there, and I started talking to him about this idea of a children's book that I had just finished. And he goes, well, I have Hanger One Publishing, which is my publishing company. Like, talk to my son. He can, your book sounds interesting. So right place, right time, talk to his son, talk to Doug about it. And I got published, which was fantastic. And so
that's amazing.
Yeah, you can find it on hangeronpublishing.com. You can find it on Amazon. But yeah, it is a hard road. If anyone's listening who's thinking about publishing a children's book, it is truly striking, lightning striking, because unless you know someone who's a publisher or an agent, it's hard to get in like that publishing world unless you self-publish.
Yeah, all of our books are self-published. We haven't even tried.
Yeah, and you know what? It's just as much fun. You'll probably see just as much success. You know.
I'll tell you, you're right about one thing. The writing process itself is heck.
Yeah.
But then I think the worst part of it is you start going back through it and you find all the mistakes that you're like, how did I miss this? What was I even thinking here?
What plant was I?
and then the fifth time you read it, you're still finding them. That's even worse.
Oh, that's
Oh man, it's terrible. We started asking some of our listeners, hey, would you like for us to send you a free PDF if you would help us? Just
that's right. Yeah. Check this out.
Yeah. Help my grammar and everything else. I'm just
Yeah.
an EC guy, so Jason and I need all the help we can get.
Did child influence the character in the book? Because you at first you said you were curious about everything and
Yeah, sure. I think as an author, and every author, and it's funny to even call myself that. I probably shouldn't call myself an author like that because of the greats, right? But so what I find is fun is to kind of leave a little Easter egg about some things that you did, or the fact that Billy would kind of wear this red cap, or like that favorite color is red, and I had a red cap when I was a kid, like things like that. Or just the idea of, his kind of parents tucking him into bed, like that's all kind of where I was also relating some of my own personal experience. Needless to say, the fact that the book is about Bigfoot, which for me, what you probably don't see is I'm surrounded by Bigfoot memorabilia and comic books and posters and all sorts of things, right? So it's like, there's something about this topic that's just or just the creature itself that's very comforting and warming, and there's the happiness feeling when I talk about Bigfoot or Sasquatch. And I was even at the bank today, and one of the tellers had a little Sasquatch, and I was like, that is so funny. Like, why would they even have a little Sasquatch like on their like calendar block, right? But they did. And it's just one of those things where like I love the topic, I love the creature, I love the idea of it. And so to write the book and to do something that I love and to share that, like that's kind of where the direction was going. And it's on a medium that can be shared with others, their littles and their children's of their, that are in their life, and my own. So it just was kind of like an all around good idea that happened to get lucky and take legs and come to fruition.
I'm gonna have to get a copy for my grandkids.
That's awesome. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Oh, they'd love it.
Oh yeah,
the pictures in it's pretty amazing too. Well,
I have a 11-year-old granddaughter, and she's all about some Bigfoot. So,
oh yeah, I mean, I've got a very little girl, and she's very much. We play Bigfoot and Sasquatch, and we kind of chase each other and do big stomps around the house, and it's like the fact that she even says Sasquatch when we go driving, and she goes, "You see a Sasquatch?" It's like what 3-year-old is talking about Sasquatch, and the fact that and around here you'll see like those big cutouts of like a Sasquatch.
I got one in my driveway.
Yeah. And so it's like, she picked that out, and it's just like, oh, it just melts my heart.
That's awesome. When she gets a little older, you going to take her on an expedition with you?
It's funny because there's kind of a double-sided thought that I have with Bigfoot. It's like people who've experienced Bigfoot and who have seen Bigfoot, they actually, from a lot of the stories that I hear and people I've talked to, kind of have PTSD, right? Like it's not a happy-go-lucky feeling, the feeling that I think that it's going to be like meeting Harry, right?
Yeah.
I'm a hunter of 30 years and I can't go in the woods again type of feeling.
We've had those people talk to us before.
Exactly. And so that type of feeling or that anxiety of what is that, and kind of the freak out side of the subject, it's like, man, I I love reading about it. I love going on expeditions. Do I really want to see it? Do I really want to potentially ruin this love that I have of this
Right.
topic by seeing one? But like, or is that just going to make me have the bug even more and sell my house, go out to Oregon, somewhere
Yeah.
where there's this high activity. But when I think about bringing my kids into that, I want them to be at an age where there's not going to be a 411 issue, right? I will
Yes.
lose my mind, right?
Right.
And any parent would.
Right.
And so I want to make sure that they're old enough, that they're secure enough, that they know how to protect themselves if they needed to, whether it was whatever else is going on in the woods or animals, right? Like know how to use bear spray if that's the case, right? So there's going to be an age limit for what I would like to have my kids at, but I think what's great about the topic is there are hundreds of books. There's so much that we can learn. And like, I always will go back to the fact that like Sasquatch Legend Meets Science by, the late great, I went on a couple expeditions with him as well, Dr. Jeff Meldrum.
Yeah.
And, what he was able to do for the topic and the science behind it.
Yes.
That's what I would be excited for my kids to get into is like, there's science that we can think about, work on, especially in the footprints of things like that Dr. Meldrum was kind of working on and focused on, that we can start, that I hope I could bring them into the subject matter and get a little bit more serious that way. And, but yes, to answer your question, David, at some point, yes, I just want to make sure we're safe while we do it.
Yeah. And it could happen like mine did. Me and my wife used to be long haul truck drivers. And we were actually, she had just went to bed maybe an hour before we had swapped, team driving I-90 in Washington, headed towards Seattle. And it was about 11 o'clock at night. And one stepped out in front of me on I-90.
Okay.
And crossed the road. And he was a big fella. If I'd have pulled over, he could have had a eye-to-eye conversation with me in my rear.
Yeah. That's a tall one.
He was big. And I think what gets you the most, and you hear a lot of people talk about it, but what gets you the most is how massive these things are, because he was probably almost as, if not every bit of broad as the front end of that dang truck. I mean, he was
big.
massive.
Yeah.
But how fast they still are, because he made it. I was doing, I think speed limit through there is like 65 in a big truck. He made it from the median across the two lanes and up the side before I got to him.
Yeah. I mean, but that didn't ever make you think twice about going in the woods or, yeah, good.
Yeah, no. It makes me more, I'm one of those weird people that it just makes me more curious. And so, I just want to find out more and more and more about these things. And, hopefully if everything goes well this year, we're planning on going to the LBL.
Mm-hmm.
And, it wasn't too long ago, just before we went to the filming or to this vanished premiere of Greg Ogles, they were just up there filming just 2 or 3 weeks before for this newest film.
Mm-hmm.
And they had some crazy Bigfoot activity from what they all said. And they've, 2 or 3 of them have been on our show since that filming, and they all talked about it. But at one point, Greg still says that he has some PTSD while he's trying to edit parts of that film because of all the stuff that happened to him.
Yeah.
And so
go ahead.
No, and so we're wanting to go there. And they're going to tell us where all that happened, and so that's where we're going to go camp.
I mean, I'd love to join if possible. I mean, so
Yeah.
it's that, but it is kind of a fine line of how close to the subject matter do you want to get. And for me,
Right.
especially with like the ghost hunting stuff, you know, that man, the clinger side of things, like that's a whole other unfortunate circumstance.
Yes.
And when there are times though, and this is where it's like when I go out there and when you have littles in your life, it's like, oh, I need to come back whole in body and in mind and spirit.
Yes. I want
I
all
can't come
fingers.
back as a all twitched out,
Quadriplegic.
freaked out. So
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But we have some friends that we've made here recently that live up in the area, and they told us that they would kind of show us around and tell us where all the really good hot spots were, and Greg and them told us that they would also do the same. So
that's and at the same time, you could be living in an area where all you have to do is look out your back window and they're digging in your trash can. And you don't have to pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars and equipment and plane tickets or whatever to pay organizations to go have an experience. Now we did because we didn't know anything, we didn't know any better. But you can literally pretty much in every state in the country go somewhere to have some type of an experience.
Yeah.
Now, what kind of an experience you're going to have it's the luck of the draw, but it's also part of the fun. And if you're going out with good people and having good time and sharing stories and food and drinks, that's also part of what I love so much about the topic is it actually it brings the weirdos and the nerds together, and you're talking about something else besides the Monday Night Football game that the Packers possibly lost, right? So
exactly. We talk about Guinness, I mean,
yeah, exactly.
You can talk about the Packers while drinking Guinness. Right?
We're gonna.
But yeah, we plan on going sometime this year.
Yeah,
way before wintertime, of course. But the LBL from us is 3.5 hours, 4 hours away. So because it's right in the border of Tennessee and Kentucky. So
a lot of stuff happened in that area.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the more I've done a lot of Central and West Coast Bigfooting, and I think I've got to cut more of my teeth on the East Coast because there's a lot happening on that side, and it would be, we can talk offline, but yeah, it would be great to meet you all.
Yeah, we'd love that. I think the more the merrier.
Right out our back door, maybe 20 miles. We got the Smoky Mountains, which is part of the Appalachians, and it runs into the Cherokee National Forest, and then I don't know if I pronounce it right, but the National Forest in North Carolina. It's real close.
Yeah,
sounds great.
We're within an hour of pretty much all of that.
Really.
Yeah. Yep. The Dennis
we want
Martin
to find
case,
our own meadow.
Not even an hour away from us.
You want to find your own meadow, Jason? Is that what you said?
Meadow.
Yeah, our own meadow.
Project.
Yeah, just not a mountain range cattle, because
yes, no stampeding. If
that's
possible.
pretty weird to have that happen. Though that is a weird thing.
And it didn't. The fact that it didn't spook this cattle, I don't know if it was bedding down to get for warmth or for whatever, but they only got spooked because it pushed a tree down. That was the only thing that it was telling us to get the hell out of there. And it obviously told the cattle to get the hell out of there. So to me, that was universal language when you get a tree get knocked down.
Right. Yeah. You're too close.
Yep.
I can knock a tree down. Can you? So
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I'm going to knock this tree down, and these cattle are going to go crazy, and they're going to scare you to death.
Right.
Yeah,
Like that was almost more disturbing than the tree, because we knew the tree was going to have, it was a possibility. I did not
Right.
know cattle running out there was a possibility.
do you believe in the infrasound?
I do, and I don't know. Again, because the scientific brain tries to put it in a box, and at the same time, um, I feel as if I was in Washington, and boy, I think it got me, another family member, and we were going through it in Washington over towards the Gifford Pinchot area. And we were, sleeping in the car because he just didn't want to deal with the tent. And it was just like, it was one of those last night type of trips. And so this is when, man, my stomach turned. I thought I had food poisoning. I didn't know what was going on. I had the family member was maybe having like an anxiety attack. So like they were, and this was like, we were fine. We were fine the whole evening. And then all of a sudden it hit like it was like, spotlight hit us. And I'm out of the car trying to figure out like what's going to happen. Family members in the car, they didn't know what was going on either. But I feel as if that was also a potential time where it was getting both of us, because nothing, and within an hour after us kind of stewing and not knowing what to do, where should we leave? Should we stay? Like we're feeling like crap. What's going on physically or mentally? Right. So, but in an hour or so, we were both sleeping. So it was like, it just kind of came and went. And, but I think that it totally does affect people. And I don't know if that's something that they can produce, or if that's just an energy that which I do believe in, which is what they're giving off. Right.
Right.
They're close in the area, and somehow our energy wavelengths are meeting, and it's making us kind of go a little loopy.
Yeah.
Possible. I would say, David, it's possible that that's a thing. But that was an experience where I don't want to have it again. And
Right.
it does cause people to shut down, have that anxiety feeling, and it's uncomfortable. And unless you've have the tools or have had some type of, I don't want to call it training or some type of therapy, and you know how to use your own tools and your own thought processes to calm yourself down, you could spin, you could spiral, and it could be a very unpleasant situation when you are miles away from the next anything in the forest. Like, yeah, that's going to make you go a little bit crazy.
Yeah. And that could put you in a 411 situation.
That could put you in a 401 situation if you decide to do something silly and you're not in the right mind, and you don't, again, have the friends, family, or protective, folks around you.
Yep.
And this is why it's, some of those, if you're ever, God bless you if you're doing this alone or solo, which there are those who are doing this alone and solo, but boy, you must have a mind like a steel trap, to do it that way.
We preach, especially when it comes to paranormal investigation, we preach, do not do it alone. You should never do it alone.
There's no, and if something does happen, there's no one there to corroborate your story.
Right.
So
yeah.
At least have to have a witness. Otherwise you're the weird person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get you.
Maybe that's why these guys they're doing it alone. You never know.
Yeah, that's also fair. Yeah.
Well, if you want to tell everybody, where to find your book and any of your research or anything, we'll give you that chance now.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Jason. So again, you can find the book on Hanger One Publishing or Amazon. It's called Billy Finds Bigfoot. Hopefully I have another publishing coming out. It's more of a novella, young teenager type book coming out relatively soon. Whether I get that through the same publisher, different publisher, or just self-publish, it's going to happen. I think it's such a good read. But then also check me out on Pine Shadow Design. It's my Instagram account. This is where I put all sorts of kind of like Bigfoot history type stuff, memorabilia type things on there. You'll also see a t-shirt or two that I have created, but I've got plenty more on my Etsy account. Again, Pine Shadow Design. Go get yourself a nice Harry and the Hendersons Bigfoot mug like that. My kids absolutely love it. They literally will play hide and go seek with it in its cupboard, so like it's a great find.
That's amazing.
Yeah, but thank you so much, Jason, David, for the time, and always good conversation about Bigfoot.
Thank you.
Come back. Join us again sometime this year. And hopefully, I mean, we can talk about the LBL here in a little bit and see.
That would be fun. Yeah. If we were to get together and do that, we could do a podcast on that.
Yeah, that would be amazing. And it would be our first time ever going and doing a live or an actual investigation for Bigfoot. Yeah.
That'd be great. Yeah. How much fun would that be? Yeah.
Yeah. And we've got a few things. We got a FLIR and we have night vision. So we've got a couple of things.
Yeah. And a couple Guinness. That's all you need.
Yes. Guinness, some good talk, and a fire. I heard, sometimes they get just interested and come down and want to know what's going on anyway. So
yeah, I mean, I would like to do more daytime hikes. I think there's this whole finding Bigfoot, Expedition Bigfoot. They really do the nighttime thing, but you got to go back to 1967, that Patterson-Gimlin film. That was during the day, daytime, and a lot of the other good footage, that's all during the day. So they're always out there.
And I believe that they have good enough night vision that even you traipsing around in the woods, they can see you.
Yep.
They know their area. They know it so well that they can see you. They know you're there. You ain't sneaking up on them.
No. Yeah. They will show themselves one way or the other to let you know that they're there or they're moving on and get away.
Yeah. That's crazy, isn't it?
All right.
But yeah, thank you again. Thank you for having us.
Thank you. We had a good night, and again, thanks for coming on, and we'll have to do this again sometime soon.
Sounds good. Thank you both.
Thank you for listening and watching.
Jason, you're
glitching
on me.
Yeah, something's wrong with my internet. But
hey, look,
anyway,
he's portal hopping.
Yeah.
We'll see you Thursday. We'll have a show Thursday at p.m. So check us out, right?
Yes, absolutely. We do have a show on Thursday. We have one on next Saturday.
Yeah. You want to do your little spiel?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Hey, I've actually updated it. So this will be the first time that I'm doing it in this form. So we'll see how everybody likes it. Connect with us at paranormal411.org. Follow us on Facebook and YouTube for all the latest updates. Join us live every Thursday from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Time, Saturdays from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time, or catch us on Subspace Radio on all major podcast platforms. Remember, do not miss our books, East Tennessee Hauntings and Lore Edition 2, a comprehensive guide to paranormal investigations, and The Haunted Ledger. They're all available on Amazon, or you could go directly through paranormal411.org to find those books. Join us.
And remember, Billy Finds Bigfoot by Kevin LeStarge. Go check it out.
Yes, I'm buying one. I'm getting it for my grandkids. So,
all right.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks. We'll see you next time.
Have you ever wondered what lurks in the shadows? What secrets the night hides? What strange phenomena might be happening just beyond your perception? Join us as we journey into the world of the paranormal, exploring everything from ghosts and UFOs to cryptids and unexplained occurrences. From haunted houses to all things paranormal, join us in the search for the truth behind the veil. Welcome to Paranormal 411.